we have to also make the economic argument if we're going to move forward, because unfortunately it has not been enough to make the social justice and human rights argument. And the economic argument is very, very simple. We are now well into the shift from the industrial to the post-industrial knowledge service economy. This is an era in which economists never tire of telling us that the most important capital for this age is what they like to call high-quality human capital. Well, we know that whether we have that high-quality human capital, you know, these people who are more flexible, right, who are more creative, who can work in teams rather than just taking orders from above, who can solve problems, right? We know that from neuroscience, not just from social science, that heavily hinges on the quality of care and education children receive early on. So, if we are to be competitive, that's right, competitive, nationally competitive, in this new era, we have got to take a very good look at what we're cutting and what we're not investing in and change it. Because this is, for those people who say, well, you know, it's the economics, right, that counts. Well, they're not counting what needs to be looked at. Nonetheless, if you look at our measures of economic health, and this is really a problem for policymakers as well, you have no hint of any of this, do you? Nothing. Of course, many people, you know, the most used economic indicator is GDP, gross domestic product, gross national product. And many of us have been aware, you know, GDP goes up at the same time, right, as unemployment goes up, that foreclosures go up, that poverty goes up. It's not exactly the most informative piece of math, is it? But the problem with GDP goes much deeper, and this is what I want to tell you about, because we have to understand this. GDP actually includes, as economically productive, activities that harm and even take life. Making and selling cigarettes, making and selling unhealthy, fast foods, high in salt, high in cholesterol, and yes, the medical bills that result from it, and the funeral bills that result from it. Oh, they're all great for GDP. But not only does GDP really include negatives as positives, and this is equally, if not more important, it fails to include as productive work the most important work, the work that is done of caring for people. Now, it does include the work of caring for people in the market economy, but we all know, well, maybe you don't know, but it is very, very poorly paid. You know, it's interesting because I always like to make some examples. Plumbers, you know, the people to whom we entrust our pipes, they make much, much more than childcare workers in the market, the people to whom we entrust our children. So this is really not logical, right? It's kind of pathological. But, and we'll get to that, to what are the values, really, that our policies are about, okay? But not only does it have a very low value for that work, it fails to include anything at all, of the value of the unpaid work of caring for people in households. Now, you may say, or somebody may say to you, yeah, but how can you possibly measure the economic value of that unpaid work in households, right? Well, the answer is very simple. And again, our policymakers need to know this. Not only can it be done, but it is being done. we have so-called satellite reports. They're not part of the main event, but they are there, okay? And these estimate that the value of this work is anywhere from 30 to 50% of the reported GDP. The 30% is from the United States, the 40% is from Switzerland, not the most radical country in the world, right? And the 50% is from a new Australian report. And the variation depends really on what valuation you use. If you use market replacement, it's low. If you use lost opportunity or some other measure, it goes up. So these are some of the niceties we are working on. And yes, we are working on it, because one of the major goals of the Caring Economy campaign is to really develop, to gather, first of all, what's already there, okay? But then also to develop a whole new set of measures that really our policymakers so need, what we call social wealth economic indicators. And one of the leitmotifs, one of the themes really in the development of this set of indicators is to identify something, again, that's crucial for economic competitiveness, not only human well-being, which is what are the drivers in a society that make it possible for every individual to develop her or his capacities. That's the question we should be asking, isn't it? And that's the question behind the development of social wealth indicators. Now, and that's why a key part, as I said, of the Caring Economy campaign is the development of these measures. And of course, among them is what I said, the value of care work, which is huge. The value that Dr. Barnett will be talking about of high-quality early childhood education, all the way down the road, because it is really that we're talking about developing our human potential not only in childhood, but through the whole lifespan. Because so much is wasted, isn't it? I mean, as Congressman Moran said, such waste, such terrible waste. And it doesn't have to be that way. Consider that our country already has one of the highest functional illiteracy rates in the world. People don't like to hear these statistics, but as I said, if we don't face reality, we can't change it, can we? We're in Never Never Land, then, right? Now, you hear all this talk about failing schools, right? But the schools aren't failing, it's our policies that are failing. It's our national investment that's failing, because it's not investing, it's not investing in good care, good nutrition, support. There are policies. We don't have paid family leave. We don't have paid parental leave. There's so many simple things that could be done, like even a caregiver tax credit, right? If you have a child tax credit, that's nice, but the caregiver is still invisible, okay? And we're talking about making this work visible and making not only its human importance visible, but also its economic importance. And the same with parenting. We know today from science what is or is not going to be the kind of parenting that helps children develop their potentials. So why not have mandatory parenting classes, for goodness sakes? Something sensible for a change. First of all, the studies are very clear from pilot projects. Teen pregnancy rates would plummet, right? Because kids would know, oh my God, that's what it really means to take care of a baby? Yikes. Child abuse rates would also be sharply reduced because of these old patterns that people have learned or experienced. They could leave them behind. And just think of the lost human potential and the economic potential. Because I always have to come back to that. You have to really talk to people where they're coming from, right? And so we have to make the economic argument.